A trip around the world in 80 minutes. This story comes from when I worked in an inbound call center. I handled escalation calls. When someone called in regarding their service plan with complaints that cannot be handled with a regular agent's authority, or the caller demanded to speak with a supervisor or manager, the call got transferred into my team's call queue, and one of us handled it. Little background. I was born and raised in the Southwest. When I was a wee little child, I spoke with a very heavy stutter. It took several years and lots of patience on my mother's part to teach me how to speak normally. The outcome was that I had to enunciate all my words carefully and thus spoke without any hint of a local accent. Later during my middle school days, I got teased a lot for not having a proper accent. So, I decided to teach myself how to speak with a proper accent. I watched a lot of my dad's old black and white westerns to learn the lingo. Then I started talking like Scotty from the original Star Trek series. It was fun, so I started copying other accents from TV and movies. I had over a dozen, including German Sergeant Schultz, I know nothing, pirate and badly dubbed Chinese kung fu, lots of pauses, simple phrases, and every sentence ends in ha. One bad side effect came about though. Often when I'm around a person with a heavy accent, I subconsciously begin to mimic their accent. I don't realize I'm doing it until it is pointed out. Usually the other person thinks I'm making fun of them or something. To avoid getting punched in the face, I have to do some quick explaining without the borrowed accent. So a call comes into my queue and I answer it as normal, kinda. I had been joking around with my supervisor while using an Indian accent, so when I answered the call I was still using the accent. The woman caller was immediately furious. She started screaming at the top of her lungs that she had specifically demanded to speak with someone who spoke English, not a. Well, let's just say her choice of words lay heavy on the racist side and leave it at that. Realizing my error, I dropped the accent and tried to talk with the lady normally, but she would have none of it. She continued on a horrible diatribe about foreign call center workers, how there wasn't any proper American English speakers anymore, and cussing me up one side down the other. Now I've handled a lot of angry calls by small-minded people, but there is one hot button I will not tolerate. The caller started insulting my parents. You wish to talk with someone who speaks English, correct? I broke in, dropping back into the Indian accent at the same time. Yes. Not a problem. I said. I will transfer you to someone who speaks English. But, I must warn you, do not disconnect from the call for any reason whatsoever. We are experiencing a rather large call volume at this time. You are currently at the top of the queue. But, if you disconnect and call back, you will be all the way back at the bottom of the call line. And you do not want that, correct? God, no. Very well, please stay on the line, and the next available English speaker will be with you shortly. Have a most pleasant day. Then I put her on hold. It should be noted that we were not supposed to put callers on hold, but I did so that she would think she was being transferred into. Make her listen to the horrible hold music. Placing a caller on hold immediately sent up a red flag in the call monitoring software. Normally a supervisor would come storming over and demand answers. My supervisor, however, had his cubicle right next to mine and had been leaning over the top when I had initially fumbled the call. He had also patched his phone into my line and heard everything the caller had said. What are you doing? He asked, while smiling a wicked smile. Exactly what she demanded. She wants to talk with someone who speaks English, then that is exactly what she's going to get. I replied with my own eating grin. After 5 minutes I took the call off hold and answered with my best Russian accent in place. Then on hold again. 5 minutes later German accent. Then French. Then Swedish. Then Mario Brothers Italian. So on and so forth. For over an hour I kept transferring this, each time answering the phone with both good, bad, and horrible accents speaking English. I thought for sure she would have caught on around the 30-minute mark when I spoke pirate. She didn't, so I continued. After about 1 hour and 20 minutes of sending this woman on a verbal tour of the world, the woman was sobbing so hard I could barely make out her distressed words, so I went in for the kill. I answered the phone with a thick southern drawl. She was so happy. She spent a good 10 minutes telling me what a horrible experience she has had just to finally talk with someone who spoke proper English. I asked her what I could do for her, and she told me what her issue was. It was something so simple that one of the regular agents could have handled it in less than 2 minutes. Finishing up the call, the woman once more thanked me for speaking proper English. I dropped back into the Indian accent. Not a problem at all, madam. It was a pleasure to handle your call. You know, it is funny, you sound just like a woman I spoke to an hour ago. Isn't life strange? With a satisfied smile, I hung up during the scream of choking rage.
So what do you think about this episode of Totally Reddit? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, subscribe, follow, and check out another one of our Totally Reddit stories.